Hi everyone, Paul here from FamilyWheels.ca with another car review for your growing family. And here's a question that I get asked all the time. After all the reviews over the last few years, what's our daily driver? Which car did you choose? And the answer is, for the last 5 years, a Volvo XC70 with the turbocharged T6 on board. It has acres of space, amazing all-wheel drive, and more pep than you'd probably expect from a family station wagon. But all that adds up to a pretty thirsty car and a big old fuel bill at the end of each month. And Devin, my wife, drives a lot for work, sometimes 100 kilometers a day. So we've been working on a bit of a plan to lessen some of those stops to the pump and also hopefully lessen our environmental impact along the way as well. So after quite a bit of saving, quite a bit of scheming, we're getting one honking solar panel system put up on our roof right now with way more capacity than we currently use for electricity in our house. That's part one of this equation. Part two is the shift over to an increasingly more common sight on our roads, an electric vehicle. With far better electric ranges and prices that are quickly dropping as well, it's a segment that's capturing people's attention. And when we were testing the Hyundai Ioniq Hybrid this time last year, it's a car that certainly caught my eye. See, in 2017, it arrived in Canada as a more typical hybrid, like we've seen in the likes of the Toyota Prius for over 2 decades at this point. But despite the impressive 5.1 liters per 100 kilometers that we saw over a week of driving, unlike the Prius, the Ioniq was fun, with nimble handling, multi-link rear suspension, a 6-speed dual clutch transmission. It looked good on the inside too, it was comfortable. Hyundai was obviously going hard after young buyers who'd shied away from hybrids in the past because they had to sell out on the fun factor for a more efficient car. And I totally dug what they were laying down, but Hyundai wasn't done with the Ioniq at that point. For the first time ever here in a single vehicle design, this car is available with 3 separate powertrains for 2018. The hybrid that we've already tested, a fully electric option that has a 200 kilometer range, and this Electric Plus, a plug-in hybrid with 47 kilometers of strictly electric range before flipping over to the same sort of hybrid system that we saw in the more basic version of this car last year. And at a well-equipped starting price of $32,000 Canadian, suddenly the plug-in hybrid segment is well within reach for many of us. And I'd say you're very likely looking at our next car here. But before we sign on the dotted line, the folks from Hyundai Gallery here in Calgary passed us the keys to spend some time on board this thing to make sure it's what our family needs. So this is an important test here this week. It's the audition for what could very well be the Carchet family's next daily driver right here on Family Wheels. Well, you have to be looking very closely to notice the differences between this plug-in hybrid version of the Ioniq and its regular hybrid sibling that we were testing last year. In fact, dimensions-wise, it's pretty much exactly the same, other than a slightly smaller trunk here in the Electric Plus because you need more battery packs. So this week we're going to forego our regular standardized trunk test and our standardized car seat test and instead focus on what makes this vehicle different. So if you're looking for that kind of information, just click on this link right up here and it'll take you to last year's review. This is a very well-equipped car starting at just $1 shy of $32,000 Canadian. In fact, you only have 2 trim levels available to you in Canada with the Electric Plus. There's the SE and the Limited. The SE at that base price includes 16-inch alloy wheels, heated front and rear seats, a leather-wrapped steering wheel. It's D-cut as well, so it looks kind of sporty. It's also a heated steering wheel as standard. We have blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, an 8-inch infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and an 8-speaker premium sound system. This Limited, for an extra 4,500 bones, tacks on leather, a proximity key, adaptive cruise, lane keep assist, autonomous braking, parking sensors, a wireless charging bay for your phone, sport pedals, and we've also got chrome and aluminum inlays all through the cabin. Looks good in here. But I'll be honest, the switches in the doors, a lot of the plastics in the cabin do feel kind of cheap and take away from that overall premium feel on this car. And even on this limited trim, you're not getting ventilated seats, you're not getting a power adjustable passenger seat, and there's no driver's seat memory either. So if those are sort of luxury features that you'd like in your vehicle, you're not going to find it on any versions of the Electric Plus. But no matter which trim, you're getting the same powertrain, 164 horsepower when you combine the 1.6 liter 4-cylinder gasoline engine and the 60 horsepower electric motor. That ever so slightly edges out the Ioniq Hybrid when it comes to power, but this is also 125 kilograms heavier because of those extra battery packs, so really power is kind of a wash in these two versions. But Hyundai didn't skimp on the batteries in this car. Unlike some of the Toyota offerings like that Camry Hybrid that I was driving earlier this year, which are coming with cheaper nickel metal hydride batteries, we have a more efficient, more advanced lithium-ion polymer battery here in the Electric Plus. There's also a 160,000 kilometer warranty on these batteries and the whole hybrid system on the Ioniq, which Toyota really can't touch. And while Hyundai says the electric range on this car should be around 47 kilometers, the consensus among buyers of this vehicle in owners' threads is that it's actually better than that. This week I've been seeing around 55 kilometers of range. The temperature has been ideal, and we've also been driving it fairly carefully, but that's some pretty good electric range, and certainly better than we'd see from, say, something like the Toyota Prius Prime. And with a pretty even mix of highway and city driving during our test, with some longer haul drives as well where we completely depleted the electric range, we've averaged this week an amazing 2.8 liters per 100 kilometers. That is crazy talk! But unfortunately for winter driving, Hyundai skipped out on putting a heat pump into the Electric Plus. That is something that comes on the fully electric version of this car. It's meant to keep the batteries at a better operating temperature when the mercury does drop, and the lack of one here in the Electric Plus means that as it gets colder during Canadian winters, we'd expect that 47 kilometer range to dip a bit. Another thing that's kind of irritating in this car for winter driving is that when you turn on the heater, even when the car has plenty of electric juice, the combustion engine fires up to give you that heat, and that's also not going to really help with your overall fuel economy either. But regardless, you still have one hyper efficient combustion hybrid system waiting in the wings for you. Hyundai says that you should be able to travel over 1,000 kilometers between fuel ups after one big charge and one full tank of gas. Charging this car this week, by the way, I found that it took between 8 and 10 hours with a typical 120 volt household style plug, or if you've got the 240 volt system, that's going to take just over 2 hours. Now, while the electric range here on the Ioniq Electric Plus narrowly beats out the Toyota Prius Prime plug-in hybrid, it can't touch Honda's new offering, the Clarity. We were in that car last month, and it has a pretty unbeatable, and especially in the cheaper plug-in hybrid spectrum anyway, 76 kilometer range. But the Clarity is so ugly, unforgivably ugly. I really don't know what Honda was thinking with that car. And unlike the Ioniq, it has a sedan style trunk, so it's not nearly as usable as this liftback style trunk like we have here or in the Prius Prime. In fact, we can fit our 80-pound dog in the back in a pinch. Bummer though that the second row seats don't have a 40-20-40 split for taking longer things like skis. Instead, it's a less usable 60-40 split second row. And also when you flip those seats down, it's not an entirely flat floor either, which is kind of a pain. And also, before we leave the trunk here, don't go digging for a spare tire if you get a flat. Hyundai needed that space for batteries, so you have one of those pesky tire repair kits on board this thing instead. But the big thing that I think makes the Ioniq stand out compared to the likes of the Clarity or the Prius is just a far more satisfying driving experience. We have a sport mode on board this car as standard, with standard paddle shifters mounted to the steering wheel as well. You get this sportier 6-speed dual clutch transmission rather than a continuously variable transmission, which can often kind of suck the power and fun out of a car. We have that multi-link rear suspension, so when you get it into the corners, it's surprisingly nimble. And also the brake feel is way less squishy, way less numb and hybrid-like than we see from many other cars in this segment as well. Take the Ioniq for a drive and it'll surprise you. And then you also accompany that with a top Safety Pick Plus rating from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. That's the best rating that any car can get from that organization. And you wind up having a safe car as well for shuttling your family around. Well, I've got to say, I'm excited about this new wave of plug-in hybrids that are coming onto the market right now. With talk of $2 a litre fuel coming to pumps across Canada by this summer, and more of our energy coming from green sources like wind power and solar, having a car that can travel modest distances, enough to get you to work and home strictly on electric range, while also offering you the backup of a more conventional hybrid system for bigger road trips, means you can check off a lot of boxes with a car like this. And unlike a lot of its competitors, the Ioniq Electric Plus really doesn't feel like you're having to force down thin gruel just to be a bit greener either. It looks good, it's fun, it's practical, and it comes in at a very affordable price, especially if you're in one of those lucky provinces that's flush right now with provincial incentives. Now, I've still got some numbers to crunch with the folks from Hyundai Gallery to see if this will in fact be our next car, but if it is, make sure to check back on the channel, because I want to bring you a series of videos over the next 12 months to see what it's like to live with one of these cars over the long term. How is it during winter driving? Is it worth your while getting a larger 240 volt charging station in your home? That sort of thing. So keep your eyes peeled in the months ahead. And the next time I see you, it'll be in the media launch event for the brand new Ford EcoSport. It's a micro crossover. You could practically fit that thing in your pocket. You can check that out in about a week from now, right here on Family Wheels.